Presentar.
Hi everyone, I'm going to explain you the linguistics of second language acquisition. Okay, we have the agenda, the nature of language, early approaches to second language acquisition, universal grammar, and functional approaches. The nature of language. We have three characteristics of languages. The first is systematic. In all languages, there are a variety of sentences, combination of sentences that it is impossible to memorize by heart. But these combinations are created according to rules or principles. The second is symbolic. The sounds or letters do not have meaning. The meaning of sounds depends on the tacit agreement of the speakers. The third is social. We need to communicate with other people, and communication is a process of human experience. Language is divided into different levels for description and analysis: lexicon, phonology, morphology, syntax, and discourse. We have early approaches to second language acquisition. Contrastive analysis is an approach to the study of second language acquisition, which involves predicting and explaining learner problems based on a comparison of first language and second language to determine similarities and differences. We have two important theories: structuralism and behaviorism. Structuralism is the focus of contrastive analysis. Is the form of both first language and second language, describing and comparing both one level at a time. Behaviorism, it focuses on stimulus, response, and reinforcement. We have the transfer is positive when the same structure is appropriate in both languages, language to language, and the transfer is negative when the first language structure is not the same in the second language. Lenguajes modernas to modern languages.
The following approach to the study of second language acquisition is error analysis approach. It was the first approach to the study of SLA, which includes an internal focus on learners' creative ability to construct language. In this approach, we can find transformational generative grammar. It says that languages have only a small number of essential rules which account for their basic sentence structure, plus a limited set of transformational rules which allow these basic sentences to be modified. The finite number of basic rules and transformations in any language accounts for an infinite number of possible grammatical structures. We can also find the procedure for analyzing learners' error. Collection of error, data collected from many speakers who are responding to the same kind of task or test. Identification of errors. Here we make a distinction between errors and mistakes. Error results from learners' lack of knowledge, and mistakes result from some kind of processing failure. For example, lapse of memory. Then we have description of errors. Errors are usually classified according to language level, general linguistic category, or more specific linguistic elements. Then we have explanation of errors. Accounting for why an error was made is the most important step in trying to understand the process of SLA. Here we make a distinction between interlingual errors and intralingual errors. Interlingual errors are errors made between languages, and intralingual errors are errors made within languages. The last one is evaluation of errors. This step involves analyzing for what effect the error has on whoever is being addressed. We can also find some shortcomings to the study of error analysis. Here we have ambiguity in classification, lack of positive data, potential for avoidance. Another approach is interlanguage approach. Interlanguage refers to the intermediate state of a learner's language as it moves toward the target L2. Interlanguage has the following characteristics. It is systematic at any particular point or stage of development. The interlanguage is governed by rules, which constitute the learner's internal grammar. It is dynamic. The system of rules which learners have in their minds changes frequently. It is variable. Although the interlanguage is systematic, differences in context result in different patterns in language use. And it has a reduced system both in form and function. Reduced system in form, the less complex grammatical structures that typically occur in an interlanguage compared to the target language. Reduced in function, the smaller range of communicative needs typically served by an interlanguage. Here we find the term fossilization, which is the process in which incorrect language becomes a habit and cannot easily be corrected. Another approach is the Marfin-Adler studies. Here we ask the question, what is inflection? Inflection adds one or more units of meaning to the base form of a word to give it a more specific meaning. The last approach is a monitor model. It adopts a notion of language acquisition device, which is a metaphor Chomsky used for children innate knowledge of language. This approach is a collection of 5 hypotheses which constitute major claims and assumptions about how the L2 code is acquired. The hypotheses forming the model are the following ones: acquisition learning hypothesis, monitor hypothesis, natural order hypothesis, input hypothesis, and affective filter hypothesis.
Universal grammar. It is a theory proposed by Noam Chomsky and continues the tradition which Chomsky introduced in his earlier work. Two concepts are of central importance in this theory. First, what needs to be accounted for in language acquisition, this is linguistic competence, and the fact that such knowledge goes beyond what could be learned from the input people receive. This is the logical problem of language learning. This theory believes that all humans have this innate capacity called language faculty that makes possible for everyone to acquire a language. It is placed in our brain since we are born. It also explains why children can acquire languages they heard from parents and their surroundings. Children also understand grammar by limited and fragmented sources, even if they heard pieces and bits of conversations. We never understand why children become adults who can speak language fluently. All humans have this ability regardless the L1. Just like other theories that develop over time, Chomsky reconceptualized his theories and he used the principles and parameters to explain the new version of his universal grammar. So basically, universal grammar is a set of principles that are the properties of all languages. These principles have parameters that limit the choice of setting depending on the language involved. Children are believed to have this innate capacity to understand all these principles and parameters subconsciously, and Chomsky proposed that universal grammar is the reason why children never violate the principles and never select wrong parameters. They recognize them in their first language unlimitedly until they become native speakers. Now we are going to talk about second language acquisition and universal grammar. Here we have three important questions in the study of second language acquisition from a universal grammar perspective. They are: what is the initial state in second language acquisition? What is the nature of interlanguage and how does it change over time? And what is the final state in second language acquisition? Initial state is where learners already have knowledge of first language at the point where second language acquisition begins. It is also where learners already have made all of the parametric choices of that first language guided by universal grammar. Some first language knowledge is clearly transferred to second language. Then we have the nature and development of interlanguage. Interlanguage is defined as the intermediate state of second language development. Here is where learners change the parameter settings because the second language input they receive does not match the first language settings they already have. Then we have the final state. Here is where we have the question, why some learners are more successful than others? There are several possibilities. We mentioned some of them. All learners may not have the same degree of access to universal grammar. Some learners are more perceptive than others, and some learners may receive qualitatively different second language input from others. Then we have functional approaches. The term function has several meanings in linguistics, including both structural function and pragmatic function. Structural function refers to the role which elements play, such as subject or object, and pragmatic function refers to what the use of language can accomplish, such as convey information, control others' behavior, and express emotion. Also, we have systemic linguistic. It says that it's not a system of rules that govern language structure, but rather a meaning potential. Here we talk about function of language. For example, we have the function instrumental, the function regulatory, and the function imagination. Also, we have functional typology. The approach is called functional because analysis integrates consideration of language structure, meaning, and use. The concept applies to all levels of linguistic analysis, in phonology, in vocabulary, in syntax, and in discourse. In phonology, the most common syllables is C, V, consonant plus vowel, for example, the pronoun me. In vocabulary, the preposition in, it denotes location, while the preposition into denotes both location and directionality. In syntax, the most common word order is SVO, subject, verb, and object. And in discourse, here, for example, the expected unmarked response to the English greeting, how are you, is fine. Here, does not matter how the respondent is feeling. And also, we have a response which reports information about one's health or personal information that is not suspected, and it's called marked. Now moving to another functional approach which has been applied to the description and analysis of interlanguage. This emphasizes the function to form mapping in the second language acquisition. Basic concept from this perspective is that acquisition of both L1 and F2 involves a process of grammaticalization. Grammaticalization is driven by communicative needs and use, and it is related to the development of more efficient cognitive processing. So, if you ask a beginning learner of English, they will rely on the context to convey the meaning, for example, the meaning of the past. If you ask a more advanced learner, they will use an algorithm of time to convey meaning, for example, yesterday. And if you ask an even more advanced learner of English, they will use the grammatical inflection ED to convey the meaning of past because they are relying on the grammatical structures they learn. Now moving to information organization, we can say that this refers to a functional approach which focuses on utterance structure, or we can also say that this approach focuses on the way in which learners put their words together. In this approach, we have three developmental levels: the nominal utterance organization, infinite utterance organization, and finite utterance organization. And we have three organizing principles: phrasal constraints, semantic constraints, and pragmatic constraints. And now, to finish with these presentations, we can say that what is being acquired in second language acquisitions is a system for conveying meaning. How language is acquired importantly involves creative learner involvement in communication, and understanding of second language acquisition is impossible if they are isolated. Thank you for watching.
The following